Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. Mr. Chipman, if I could just start with you. Since leaving the ATF, you've served as a policy advisor or provided support for, I think, just about every national gun control group in the country or close to it: the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and most recently the Giffords Group. My question is, given your policy bias, and you clearly have a very distinct policy point of view, you alluded to this with Senator Cruz a moment ago, how can America's hundreds of millions of law-abiding gun owners have confidence that you won't try to restrict their Second Amendment rights if you're confirmed as ATF director? I mean, what assurances can you give them that you will limit your efforts to criminals who misuse weapons and leave law-abiding firearms owners to themselves?
Senator, thank you for this question because it's really important. As I've said, for 25 years, I enforced the law on the books. Every day, me and other federal agents tried to catch the bad guys. I mean, that's what the mission was. It was trying to keep the public safe. During those 25 years, I saw gaps in the law that really prevented us from doing the job I knew the American public wanted us to do. Look at that 25 years. I was not going wayward with law-abiding gun owners. I never received a complaint of that sort. And I'm prepared to return to that job. But my passion after leaving ATF was to make ATF and our enforcement of gun laws more effective to keep us all safe. I understand if I'm confirmed, I will have to earn the confidence and your respect and trust to keep doing that.
Let me ask you about some of your work for the Giffords Group. In the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case, District of Columbia versus Heller, which was handed down when I was actually working at the U.S. Supreme Court, the Giffords Law Center that year, if memory serves, authored an amicus brief arguing that there is no individual right to own a firearm under the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court famously found otherwise. Do you share your employer's belief that the Second Amendment does not protect an individual right to keep and bear firearms?
Thank you for your question, Senator. I do not. I'm a gun owner. I respect that the Supreme Court has recognized this right. And if ATF director, I will ensure to uphold that right.
Very good. So you think Heller was rightly decided, just to be clear about this?
Senator, I'm a cop, not a lawyer. What I know is the law is the law, and the Supreme Court plays a role in recognizing what those rights are. As an agent, I felt like we were going down a highway. Our mission was to prevent crime, and the Constitution were those guardrails to keep us in line. And at times, when the road was uncertain, we had signposts, and those were attorneys who we asked advice and counsel. And so if confirmed as ATF director, that's the balance that I would strike. But the bottom line is our job is to prevent crimes from apparently is ongoing right now that other members have suggested, and that would be my sole duty.
Well, I just want to be clear on this because you said that you do think that the Constitution supports, protects the individual right to keep and bear arms. That was the holding of Heller. You've been a policy advocate now for quite a number of years, and I think that your views, and you've discussed some of them today, are fair game. So I just want to be clear on this. You think Heller was rightly decided. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's helpful. Let me ask you about something you said in 2012. In an interview, I think it was on MSNBC, you said that the Secret Service should not carry guns. You said their whole rule is to cover and evacuate, and you went on to say possibly we need to think of strategies like that in schools. Is that still your view?
Senator, I trust that you have and your staff have actually picked something I've said. I do not believe I ever said that. I might have said this, which is I was trained to work with the Secret Service, and I have observed that part of that training is that you have to get your body in between you and the person you're protecting, and you often don't have the opportunity to even draw your gun. That is something that I would say. I have never advocated that the Secret Service should not carry guns, ever.
Did you mean to suggest then that schools should have unarmed guards, that they shouldn't be able to protect students with firearms? I mean, I'm trying to understand the import of your comments.
Senator, thank you for the question about schools. I mean, this is something that we've all debated and tried to figure out a solution to the mass violence we've seen in schools. We know how to keep buildings safe. I came in one today. I do not believe that the best approach is to arm people to win gunfights in schools.
So you're opposed then to having armed guards in schools? You think that they shouldn't be armed?
As an advocate and as a farms expert, I've rendered my opinion that I believe that there are better ways to secure schools. If I'm confirmed as ATF director, largely this is not going to be the focus of ATF. Our focus would be to prevent people who would do harm at schools from ever getting guns in the first place. Hopefully that addresses the question as you've asked.
Wouldn't that just leave the guards who are there, the law enforcement who are there, to act as human shields? I mean, is that essentially your view?
Senator, no, it's not, and I'm sorry if I'm not explaining this correctly. We came into a building today secured so that guns would not be brought in. I'm more a believer of hardening targets so that guns could never enter a school. So that armed people inside would not be faced with other armed people. So, metal detectors is something used in some schools, and I've suggested that that's a possible, view that states and localities will have to make for themselves.
I do have some additional questions for you, which I'm happy to give to you for the record, as well as we'll give to you for the record your comments in that 2012 interview that I referred to and give you a chance to follow up more fully on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Hawley. Senator Cotton.
Strikes the reference to Joe Biden as the center of the proposed investigation and replaces it with the true topic of the investigation, Burisma and Hunter Biden. An essential element of the Democrats' case on abuse of power is that the Bidens did nothing wrong. It can only be an abuse of power and not a correct use of power if the president was pursuing something under which there was no reasonable basis to ask a question about Hunter Biden and Burisma. Hunter Biden and Burisma, well, that's an interesting story. And I think just about every American knows there's something up with that. $86,000 a month, no experience, working for some foreign government while your dad's the vice president of the United States? Is there anyone who believes this is okay? I know we got a few of my Democrat colleagues maybe run for president or might run for president one day. Would you let your vice president have their son or daughter or family member out moonlighting for some foreign company? Maybe I'll use language familiar to the former vice president. Come on, man. This looks dirty as it is. Hunter Biden was making more than 5 times more than a board member for ExxonMobil. I've heard of that company. And so I went to read up on Hunter Biden, learn a little more about him, and I found this very extensive profile in The New Yorker. And here's what it says. Hunter said that at that point, he had not slept for several days. Driving east on Interstate 10 just beyond Palm Springs, he lost control of his car, which jumped the median and skidded to a stop on the shoulder of the westbound side. He called Hertz, which came to collect the damaged car and gave him a second rental. The Hertz rental officer told me he found a crack pipe in the car and on one of the consoles a line of white powder residue. Beau Biden's Attorney General badge was on the dashboard. Hertz called the Prescott Police Department and officers filed a narcotics offense report listing items seized in the car, including a plastic bag containing white powdery substance, a Secret Service business card, credit cards, and Hunter Biden's driver's license. That is what we would call evidence. And I don't want to make light of anybody's substance abuse issues. I know the president's working real hard to solve those throughout the country, but it's a little hard to believe that Burisma hired Hunter Biden to resolve their international disputes when he could not resolve his own dispute with Hertz rental car over leaving cocaine and a crack pipe in the car. It continues. Hunter stayed in Los Angeles for about a week. He said that he needed to get away and forget sooner after his arrival in L.A. He said he asked a homeless man in Pershing Square where he could buy crack. Hunter said that the man took him to a nearby homeless encampment where a narrow passageway between tents, someone put a gun to his head before realizing that he was the buyer. He returned to buy more crack a few times that week. Again, not saying, not casting any judgment on any challenges someone goes through in their personal life, but it is just hard to believe that this was the guy wandering through homeless encampments buying crack that was worth $86,000 a month to Burisma Holding. And that might be one of the reasons why when ABC asked Hunter Biden, hey, you think you would have gotten this job in the absence of, your dad being the vice president? Well, he said, probably not. And then I looked to the record evidence, and I looked to the testimony of Mr. Kent. Mr. Kent was one of the witnesses they called on the first day. He said Burisma was so dirty that our own embassy had to pull out of a joint sponsorship with them. When Ambassador Yovanovitch was being prepped for her Senate confirmation, the Obama administration was so worried about the corruption around Burisma and Hunter Biden that they held special prep moments to try to get ready for the inevitable questions about this obvious corruption that the president asked about. Mr. Kent, again, one of their witnesses from the first day, also gave testimony that that the head of Burisma had stolen $23 million in the U.S. and the U.K., and that he paid a bribe to get off the hook. So again, it's not as if Burisma is pulling out new plays. Their playbook is to do dirty stuff and then go and pay bribes and hire the people necessary to make those problems go away. This is why the minority hearing issue is so important, by the way. You wonder why Republicans are so angry that we didn't have a hearing to put on our own witnesses and own evidence. And you may wonder why, well, if they feel so good about their case, why did they block our ability to put in evidence? It's because we have the ability to show that Burisma is corrupt. We have the ability to show that Hunter Biden is corrupt. And that totally exculpates the president. Because there is no way in the United States of America that honestly pursuing actual corruption is an impeachable offense. That's why I offer the amendment, and I encourage my colleagues to vote.
Tôi viết lên đây với tất cả chân thành của lòng tôi trao anh. Ngày nào đã quen nhau vì chung hướng đời mình chót trao nhau nụ cười. Và tình yêu đó tôi đem ép trong tim, dù bụi thời gian có làm mờ đi kỷ niệm của hai chúng mình. Tôi cũng không bao giờ quên anh. Cho đến hôm nay với nức nở nghẹn ngào, mình mềm lòng xa nhau. Còn đâu những đêm anh dìu tôi lối về, buồn kể nhau nghe chuyện đời. Tình mình này chết như lá úa thu rơi, đường trần mồ côi tôi lạnh lùng ôm kỷ niệm của hai chúng mình. Ngơ ngác trong đêm trường tôi chứa vơi niềm yêu thương. Nhớ lúc chia phôi cầm tay chưa nói hết bao nhiêu niềm thương của tuổi xuân vừa tròn. Xa nhau mấy người không buồn không nhớ, xót xa cho tình yêu. Nuối tiếc xa xôi, ngày xưa anh nói vẫn yêu em nghìn năm, vẫn đợi em trọn đời. Nhưng nay hết rồi, hai người hai lối, lúc đêm buồn không ai. Tôi gói yêu thương xin trao trả ân tình về người tôi yêu mến. Đừng thương tiếc chi anh, chuyện hai chúng mình là giấc mơ trong cuộc đời. tình mình này chết như lá úa thu rơi, đường trần mồ côi tôi lạnh lùng ôm kỷ niệm của hai chúng mình. Tuy đã xa nhau rồi nhưng không bao giờ quên anh. Cho đến hôm nay với nức nở nghẹn ngào, mình mềm lòng xa nhau. Còn đâu những đêm anh dìu tôi lối về, buồn kể nhau nghe chuyện đời. Tình mình này chết như lá úa thu rơi, đường trần mồ côi tôi lạnh lùng ôm kỷ niệm của hai chúng mình. Ngơ ngác trong đêm trường tôi chứa vơi niềm yêu thương. Nhớ lúc chia phôi cầm tay chưa nói hết bao nhiêu niềm thương của tuổi xuân vừa tròn. Xa nhau mấy người không buồn không nhớ, xót xa cho tình yêu. Nuối tiếc xa xôi, ngày xưa anh nói vẫn yêu em nghìn năm, vẫn đợi em trọn đời. Nhưng nay hết rồi, hai người hai lối, lúc đêm buồn không ai. Tôi gói yêu thương xin trao trả ân tình về người tôi yêu mến. Đừng thương tiếc chi anh, chuyện hai chúng mình là giấc mơ trong cuộc đời. Tình mình này chết như lá úa thu rơi, đường trần mồ côi tôi lạnh lùng ôm kỷ niệm của hai chúng mình. Tuy đã xa nhau rồi nhưng không bao giờ quên anh. Tình mình này chết như lá úa thu rơi, đường trần mồ côi tôi lạnh lùng ôm kỷ niệm của hai chúng mình. Tuy đã xa nhau